figured if you want to put the kids to work, you guys can weed. I'll weed whack all this down, clean up that mess a little bit.
That is a mess.
We'll get it looking good. I'll mow it all down. It'll be really nice.
Tomorrow we are anticipating a pretty nerve-wracking day. We are finally addressing an issue that came about over the winter on our home build. So since we have a lot of anxiety going into tomorrow, we decided to work out that nervous tension by taking care of this mess behind us. A few of you have noticed in the last video that our orchard got pretty overgrown this spring while we were working on the house. So we're going to address that today, and it will just help us relax going into tomorrow.
Can I start weeding now?
Yeah, but go get brothers and sister. You're gonna need some reinforcement.
All right, Mom, we're ready to go. Can I break out that brand new weed whacker that we just got?
Jeremy just got himself a new toy at the hardware store. So yeah, I'm not stepping foot in here until you have mowed this down, and I know that there is not a single death noodle in this whole
We were
place.
talking, this grass is incredibly lush. It's like a foot or two high, and we know, I guarantee there are snakes in here, and I hate snakes. When it comes to getting some weed whacking done, I have a history with snakes. I actually like flung one up in the air onto myself once. I was under a tree at our old property, had one come down off of the tree, land on my shoulder.
I literally can't even. That gives me the heebies to even think about that.
I don't do snakes and spiders, but this needs to be dealt with, so.
Well, Jeremy gets all the weed whacking done. The kids and I are going to start working on all of the weeds, and then we will move on to the beautification of the orchard.
Put this thing to the test, huh? Battery power, what do you think?
I'm doubtful.
I'm so freaked out about the snakes. You remember the time I sliced my leg too? I have a bad history when it comes to doing this, man.
What is this? It's not lunchtime.
It's snack time.
It's always snack time. Back to work. We have some serious productivity issues around here.
Last year, when we got all of the trees planted here in our orchard, we dumped a bunch of compost into the soil, kind of tilled it in and amended this entire area, which was great for the trees. Unfortunately, it was also great for all of the weeds and this grass that we're now having to deal with. You can see this stuff is like waist high on me, so 3.5 or so feet.
Or so.
Our battery operated trimmer was not working out really well with this. I switched and went back to our gas powered trimmer with the hedge trimmer attachment. On that, I'm kind of hitting it real low. I'm trying to knock it down. We need to get this entire place covered up, much like we did on the raised bed side of the garden. It just really helps to have that covering here. We can't be doing this every 6 to 8 weeks in the summertime. It's not reasonable. It's taking way too long. This place is a massive mess. It is most definitely going to take us more than a simple afternoon, a full day to get everything we wanted to get done. Not going to happen.
Yeah, we were being optimistic for sure. The kids got all of their weeding done. It looks really nice. They've gone inside, but as far as getting all the fabric down and everything today, probably not going to happen.
The original plan was to knock down all of this grass, all the weeds, get all of these bales that you maybe see in the background here broken up, spread out, and then we have some non-woven fabric that we wanted to cover this entire area with, so that I wouldn't have to deal with this anymore, and that is just not gonna happen. We have too much going on in our life.
We do. We have so much going on when it comes to the home build and then the farming / homesteading aspect of all of this. It just becomes a little overwhelming when you try to do it all at the same time and stuff falls to the wayside, like the orchard. And then when you go and you try to take care of it, it's so overgrown and so overwhelming at that point in time. But we just do what we can.
Eventually, life will slow down. We'll
Yeah.
get there. I'm gonna spread these out. I'm gonna cut them
Oh
open.
man,
They're super nasty.
it is incredible how these broke down.
You have gloves?
No,
Get some?
I feel like I need a gas mask.
Look at your chest. Look how burned you are.
I'm so burned. I know, I didn't think the sun was that intense. That's why I've switched to a t-shirt,
You
but
look like a lobster.
red lobster. Last year, we carried these bales over. We broke half of them open, put them under the trees. The other half, we should have broke open when they were fresh and dry, but we didn't. We let them sit there all year long, and it's just another thing that we should have had done a year ago that we're now having to deal with because they've fermented and they've melted into these big, moldy, impossible to spread cubes.
They've melted. No, it should be good for the soil. It's just kind of a pain breaking them now
Yeah.
because they're a mess. Like Melissa
Yeah.
said, we're having a hard time handling them, breaking them up, getting everything spread. It's supposed to be a nice mulch
Yeah.
surface for the orchard. And granted, our trees are doing great, but trying to
Yeah.
get things cleaned up in here, it's just hard. We're so far behind on everything. It has been a long day. It's not even that warm out here. It's in the low 70s, but we haven't had any warm weather for a while. So it feels like it's absolutely sweltering to me and to everybody else. I think we got a decent amount of work done. We'll pick this up and hopefully get it completed here in a couple days once we get everything resolved with the house.
Would you like an apple?
Oh, the miles we've wasted in someone else's shoes, empty expectations, everything to lose. Everything's come to pass, it's sand inside the hourglass. Everything's come to pass, sand inside the hourglass.
My stress level is absolutely off the charts today. Ordinarily, when it comes to getting work done on the house, I'm usually really excited because generally it means that we're making some progress. However, today, with the work that is supposed to be getting done, we're having to go back to address an issue that arose over the winter. Those of you who have been following along may recall the fact that we discovered that the focal point to the front of our house, this big decorative truss that we have, structural truss, was actually sinking on one side. And this came about after we got our gutters installed and discovered that the post here on the right side sunk maybe a good 3 inches into the ground during the spring thaw. It was very, very stressful.
Yeah, and it's still very stressful because the part that has us feeling really queasy this morning is that post that has sunk down, has a beam that sits on top of it. That beam feeds into our front wall, which means it has finished drywall attached to it. So when we jack up this post, we run the risk of doing a lot of damage inside.
As tempting as it is to just pretend that this never happened and that we don't have to address it, that's really not a viable option for us. This is a structural issue. It absolutely 100% needs to be addressed. The reason that my stress level is so high, however, is that this beam that supports the north end of the truss actually ties back into this wall here, like Melissa mentioned. So with making the far end adjustment, we run the risk of actually cracking or breaking off this section of wall. That's finished drywall. It's been mudded, taped, textured, painted. It's completely done. hopefully with making the adjustments that we need to work out outside, we don't end up destroying this wall in the process. Despite the fact that our front truss is sinking, we actually love it. We love the way that it looks, and Melissa and I weren't the ones responsible for building it, which means that we're gonna have the guys who did our roof and also built the truss come back out to take a look at things here today.
Right, they're on their way out here now, so hopefully today we will either have it fixed or we'll have a really good plan of attack on how we're going to get it fixed. It sounds like we will probably have this resolved today. The guys have gone into town to weld a block. They did a bunch of measurements all around, discovered that it's fallen 2 1/4 inches on this side. So they're going to weld up a steel block that is that size. We will jack it up, slide that block under, fingers crossed, no drywall difficulties. So after a lot of snapping and crackling in here, I don't see any cracking. They got it up the 2 1/4 inches that they need, so they're re-drilling out that bottom bracket right now. Fingers crossed they're able to slide that piece underneath. Everything's stabilized and no damage done.
Well, that worked out
Terrifyingly perfect.
perfectly. No, so truss has been jacked up. We got that little plate, what is it called?
It's just a block.
A little block, a little wedge that's been stuck under there. So everything is back where it belongs, which is great. The whole process was absolutely terrifying. And while they were in the process of jacking everything up, I expected to hear a little bit of creaking and maybe some popping in that corner that we talked about earlier, but it was literally going through the entire house. No joke,
Loudly.
the entire house. And because this is such a big echoey room, everything was kind of amplified. Freaked me out.
Yeah, we thought it was a drywall cracking, but it wasn't. It was actually just the roof system kind of moving and creaking. But yeah, it sounded really loud. I expected our drywall to be crumbled out.
So happy ending. We already walked through the entire house. There are no cracks. There's no damage, nothing like that. Thank God. And
Yeah.
the truss is back where it should be.
So that post is a bit of an eyesore now. So what we've decided to do is once the patio is all poured, we're going to be closing up the bottom of both posts by doing some natural stone. So it'll end up being a good thing. Today, our StoryWorth book arrived. I started this project about a year ago with my dad, and we just received it in time for Father's Day. If you've never heard of StoryWorth, it's an online service that helps you connect with your loved ones by sharing memories and stories, and it preserves them all in this perfect little book. Father's Day is the perfect time to let your father or your grandfather or your father figure know that you care about their life story. So this is how it works. StoryWorth will email them a thought-provoking question of your choice from a vast pool of options. Questions like, what is the best advice your father ever gave you? Or if you could do it all over again, what would you change? Then after a year, StoryWorth will compile all of the questions and stories, including photos that you or him choose, into this perfect little keepsake book that you can share for generations. My dad has always had some of the best stories and thoughtful advice, but through this experience, I have learned even more about him, including some stories from his younger days that I know my kids are gonna get a huge kick out of. So this Father's Day, I highly recommend that you gift the StoryWorth experience, because more than any other gift that you can give, this says that you care about where he's been, what he's learned on his journey, and what he hopes to pass on. The coolest thing is this isn't just for dads. It can be for any influential person in your life. To check out StoryWorth for yourself, go to storyworth.com/goodsimpleliving and save $10 off your first purchase. Today we feel good. The front of the house is fixed and nothing happened, and that is a huge weight off our shoulders. Admittedly, I was in kind of a funk the day before, but it's fine now. We're getting the orchard taken care of. That should be all done today. So it's just nice to be like checking things off the list. It just takes some weight off. So today we're getting all this old, yucky, ruined hay dumped in the orchard, Hopefully, fingers crossed, we have a barn going into next winter, because another winter of hay and tarps is not really at the top of my list. We lost so much hay. We lost about half of our hay just to windstorms blowing the tarp off and then it getting soaked and mildewing, and you can't feed that to horses. So we're going to use it as mulch. Nothing goes wasted. Hopefully next year we get our hay situation squared away as well.
It feels really good to finally get that rotting pile of hay out of the way, cleared out of this little side yard area next to our barn. Despite the fact that it's now much cleaner here, we just basically transferred and moved all of that mess over to the orchard. So before we get our landscape fabric put down, I think we're gonna have to give that mulch layer a little bit of time to continue to break down. Should enrich the soil, be really beneficial for the trees. The reason stuff like this has been so frustrating for Melissa and I is because ordinarily we like to have a really well-maintained, pretty, very manicured property. In the last 2 years that we've been living here, things have been such a whirlwind with all the work that we've been trying to get done that things like this have kind of fallen to the wayside. So as nice as it is to get that cleaned up, there's still a couple things we want to get done before the end of the day today. One of those we're really looking forward to as a family. Hey, come on, can you grab that wheelbarrow, bring it over so we can get the tree? Push, little one, push.
The very last thing on our list today is to get our Shiro plum tree planted. Shiro plum, right?
Yeah, it's a Shiro Japanese golden plum tree. Delicious.
It is our absolute favorite thing to grow. It's one of the first trees that we planted at our homestead in Washington State, and it grew to such a beautiful tree. Jeremy put so much love and effort into pruning that and making it perfect. And the day that we moved, I sat under that tree and I cried because I was so sad to leave it. And so planting the same kind of tree here on our new homestead just kind of brings it all together.
Yeah, it'll be really nice to have one of these again. And that tree was just very significant to us. Again, not to over romanticize fruit trees, but we have an affinity for fruit trees. And this type of tree in particular, back at our old property, was kind of the springboard that led us down this kind of more homesteady lifestyle, that path. So it means a lot to us. It'll be great to get this one stuck in the ground here and have those plums once again. You want a shovel? Here you go, bud. All you. Get her done. So I know this tree doesn't look like much right now. It's a whip that came through the mail from a nursery. We know from prior experience though that these things grow extremely vigorously. I fully expect that in the next year or two it'll look like and resemble a normal fruit tree. We'll probably get a little bit of fruit off of it. 3, 4, 5 years from now we'll be drowning in fruit. I miss this stuff so much. These plums are so good. Okay, not too much deeper. We're gonna put a big like volcano around the bottom of the tree, okay? No, there, that's plenty.
And there he is in all his glory.
It's adorable.
This week, some things were resolved and some things weren't. But the good news is that big thing, that thing that we've been stressing over for months, was taken care of quickly and without incident. It's crazy how we build these things up in our mind, whether they're good or bad. And then afterwards we feel silly about all the energy we put into worrying about them. Our minds are so powerful like that. We allow little things to pile on until they feel like a huge weight on our shoulders, a hovering cloud that follows us around. I thought that I was moving beyond all that. I thought that I had learned to focus on one thing at a time. But lately, over the last few months, I've been letting all these little things mount up. Seeing the sinking truss corrected and watching our orchard evolve and our garden expand, it helped to remind me that we don't have to figure it all out today. Building a home is no different than anything else in life. You focus on the immediate task in front of you. You show up and you remain grateful for the small victories, and you enjoy the life that you have today. Trust that you're brave enough and wise enough to figure out all the rest of it along the way. Stay focused, but don't lose sight of what's really important. And I'm always discovering that what's really important usually has absolutely nothing to do with all the little things that I allow to consume me. What if instead we gave as much power and as much energy as we do to the things that cause us stress, to all the things that bring us joy?